guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Sunny Studios. I am using the Feeling Froggy, the Puddle Jumpers Stamps and Dies. This is the Country Scenes Stamps and Dies. I thought I had one for the Feeling Froggy, but for the life of me, I cannot find it. So this is obviously going to be a scene card. I'm kind of laying these out so that I can get an idea if everything that I have in my head will actually fit on the card. Before I get too far into the video, I do want to mention that Sunny Studios is having a retirement / overstock sale. So there's quite a bit of these. The little frog that I'm using here isn't on sale, but there's another one that's called Froggy Friends, I think, that is on sale. And you would be able to use that to make something very similar. And then there's another, it's Spring Scenes, I think, is the scenes. They have a couple of different of these scenes. One, I used the tropical one for another video recently as well. So let me tell you what I'm going to do today. So do you ever buy, I know you have because you're crafters. You ever buy a stamp set and you have every intention of using it as a new set and you are going to, you're going to make this card and then life just happens to you and you never get the chance to make it. So I actually bought these back in February. Actually, that's not true. I bought them in March because my mom was in the first hospital then. So anywho, I bought them with the intention of making some spring cards. And there was another one that I ended up, I bought the little flamingo because I was going to make my sister's birthday card with it. And my mom ended up passing away 2 days before my sister's birthday. So needless to say, I didn't use that one either. But they're adorable and I've purchased them. I've invested in them, so I want to use them. So today we are going to be adapting our scene for the season. So even though it's not necessarily originally my idea was for spring, I'm going to transform it into fall. So let's talk about what we're coloring here. So for my two large ducks, I am going to color them white. So I'm just adding some shadows with the grays, and then I am going to use a combination of two different oranges for the large ducks, their beaks and their feet. For the little ducks, there's such a small amount of room on their bills that I don't need to add another color. So then from there, we did the big ducks white. We're going to do the little chicks yellow. I do prefer more of a golden yellow. That's not for everybody, but basically I shaded them all the same way. I shaded them so that there's a little bit of shading kind of like around the back of the head, under that little wing, and kind of on their little tushes. And then I'm going to work all the way out to my lightest color. And then I colored all of them exactly the same. So we're going to have some ducks. The one that has, the large duck has no feet. We're going to have some in the water learning how to swim. And then we're going to have some ducks that their little swim lesson is over and they're leaving the pond for the day. So, I think these are so cute. Originally I had bought this, with the intention, like I said, of doing some spring cards and those little puddle jumpers. There's lots of spring images. But also I wanted to use this little pond to do a reflection with the flamingos. So that's I still got that locked up. It's just not going to be what we do today. For the, what are those called? Lotus flowers. For the lotus flowers, I ended up doing them white because I am kind of switching this up to be more of a fall card. I didn't want to do a more traditional pink and just bring in another color. It just didn't seem necessary. So white for the little lily pad is what I went with. And then I am going to do the lily pads, this yellow green. This is also the same yellow green that I am going to do the grasses that are by the cattails. So obviously, like, we have a large expanse of area of grass in the card. So we want to have at least two. You could probably even switch it up and do like a 2 to 3, at least two different kinds of greens, because we don't want it all to be one tone. We still want to create that interest. So for my little frog here, I added shading to his legs that are tucked up under his body, the lines next to his little arms. And then I also added this little like kind of half comma of darker shading underneath his eyes to really like push them forward. And then I'll do the lightest parts on the outside of his knees, the outside of his little elbows, and kind of like around his belly. So yeah, anywho, this voiceover is a little bit different. I'm almost 6 minutes into the voiceover and I've had to stop it 2 or 3 times. If you hear what sounds like chewing potato chips in the background, that's exactly what's happening, because I've never done this before. She's actually being really good about it. But my child, normally, like after a nappy, if I need to like just a couple more minutes to finish up something, she is pretty good about like hanging out in her crib. And today she did not want to do that. And my wonderful husband, who is fantastic in so many ways, is helping my oldest sister. So I'm solo, but I still wanted to be able to get my voiceover done. So she asked to watch the tablet, which we rarely ever do in our household. Hold on one second. So here, these are the browns that I'm going to use for the little cattails. And then I'm also going to use it to color like the side of the pond. This is obviously like a very neat side of the pond, which I'm here for, honestly. But I am going to color that brown so that there is a distinct difference between the top grassy layer and the bottom water layer. We'll have this kind of brown in between. I'm also going to use it to color the trees, the trunks of the trees. So I'm going to use the darkest color kind of on the bottom of the trunks, and then the lightest color in the center. So anywho, we don't typically let her watch the tablet, and she does. She does like watching like music videos and stuff on there, the kids' versions, obviously. So she had asked about it, and I was like, I do have a voiceover that I want to get done. So we made the deal that she could watch the tablet as long as it took mommy to get her voiceover done. And that then afterwards she would she would help me make dinner and we would be done with the tablet. So I told her, I was like, you cannot and see, I'm worried about, like, I'm telling you about how my toddler's doing such a good job of being quiet, and in the meantime, Jingles the dog is outside the door just scratching it up, and so her tags are jingling. Can you hear her? Is that 3 or 4 interruptions? Anyway, so she has been doing really, really good, but she is very interested in interrupting me. I did tell her that before the video was over, I would let her come over and say hello. So that will be forthcoming in our video. So here, I wanted the different layers of hills to be different colors. So I'm using the yellow greens in the hill that's furthest away, kind of like it's higher, so it's catching the most light was kind of my thought process with it. And so I'm not doing any grasses or anything like that. Like, it's pretty far away. So I am just filling this in from darkest at the bottom to lightest at the top. Now I'm going to go into this little hill, this mid hill, if you will. And originally I'm going to go in with the yellow greens, but I'm actually going to make this kind of like a hybrid of my 2 greens. So I'm going to color the whole thing how I colored the first one, but then to create that separation, I'm going to go back in with some darker greens more toward the bottom, and then I'm going to blend that out. So it gives us kind of like just an in-between layer. It's set apart from the background, but it is not as like true green as the foreground. And then for this one here, like, you want to make sure that your markers are fairly filled when you're coloring such a large area. Otherwise, you can get quite a few streaks. And so I am going to end up having to refill this G17 to see how you can see the whites of the paper. So there's a difference between that and the streaking that I'm going to be talking about in just a second. So when we're coloring something, I talk about when we're coloring like flowers, like following the shape of the petal, or if we're coloring like a barrel, we're going to be following that kind of round shape. So here, I don't want the large area to be uninteresting, but I do want it to have a little bit of something. And oh, you know what? I'm going to do the leaves first. So we're going to come back. We're going to come back to that texture. So here's how we're switching it up for fall when it comes to the trees. I am going to do, it's called stippling when you use it the way that it's properly supposed to be used, but really I'm just going to do some dots. I'm going to do some dots in some fall colors on each of the trees. I didn't use every color on every tree. I tried to mix it up so that it would be a little bit different, but basically I chose a red, some of the oranges that we used for the shading in the ducks, same thing with the yellows, and then a couple of the greens that we use for the grasses. And I'm just going to do these dots to fill this in, and it's going to feel more like, the leaves are changing in the background, which I think ours are finally starting to change. I told my husband yesterday, I was like, I've been cold all day. I wonder why. And then I look at the thermostat and I was like, oh, because it's 39 degrees outside. I live in Ohio. And he was like, yeah, but what does the outside temperature have to do with the inside temperature? And I was like, well, maybe it's because my body's not used to it. Since last Saturday when we took the kids to get pumpkins, it was 80. It was 80 degrees outside. So Mother Nature is wild. So here, I'm putting the colors in. I'm letting the ones that are like colors overlap, but there is still obviously white that is showing through. So how do we make them completely filled in without affecting all of those other colors negatively? And in order to do that, I am going to find a light yellow. Yellow works with red, yellow works with orange, yellow works with green. So yellow is my buffer color. And any of those white areas that I have really in every single one of those trees. I'm going to go in with my light yellow, which in my case is a Y02. That's also the lightest color for my little chicks. And I'm going to get those little white areas, which will help fill them in. And now my voiceover was not interrupted by my child or my dog, but by my father. Oh, I think the Lord is telling me, like, Kelly, this voiceover is just not meant to come together. So anyway, we're going to use the light yellow to kind of like bring everything together. You can leave some white areas. I'm going to come back in with my white gel pen and add some little white dots to blend it all in. But then in order, for us to have like these fallen leaves, not all of the colors, just some of the like darker ones that you'll actually be able to see, and one of the darker yellow. I'm just going to do the little dots kind of down underneath the trees as well. So, this is going to help kind of add interest to that kind of area in the back of our card. And then also definitely signify we've got the fall leaves, the leaves are falling, and that, obviously the colors as well will indicate that. So, what were we even talking about? I don't know. It's lost me, because I would lose my head if it was not attached to my body, people. Like tonight, I am making chicken and stuffing, and my oldest sister very generously offered to make the mashed potatoes, which I have no shame in taking her up on whatsoever. So I am going to make dinner here, the chicken and stuffing, but then I'm going to take it to my dad's for us to have dinner together. All right, side note here. So remember I told you that I thought I had the die for Feeling Froggy, but I cannot locate it. So since I'm going to fussy cut this out, I am going to outline that just to give me a little bit of a thicker outline so that when I fussy cut it, it's a little bit easier. So I'm going to line up these dies, all of these dies for the for the scenes, like it cuts out the top of it, but not the bottom, which is really very helpful because then you can decide how high up on your card it's going to be. So I'm going to cut these all out, and then this one I am going to fussy cut. Tricks for fussy cutting: cut with your dominant hand, hold the paper with your non-dominant hand, and keep your scissors straight. Do all of the turning with your non-dominant hand. This helps to give us a much smoother cut. I didn't mind fussy cutting this guy at all because he was super easy. Not a lot of intricate detail, just a nice little kind of hulky bulky kind of frog. And then in order to make sure everything looks super nice, I did, which I'm not sure if I didn't film it or what, but I do like to go around the edges of my fussy cut images with a water-based black marker. I use the Tuxedo Black from Memento, and that black around the edges, flip the image over so you're looking at the back side of it in case your marker slips. And then just go around the edges. Here, I'm kind of laying everything out so that I can get a feel for where everything is going to sit. And then I can go back in and do my coloring. So here's the greens we were talking about. Okay, so I want there to be some interest. And if you layer your alcohol markers, you can get a little bit of like a streaky effect. Here, this is me refilling my marker. I left it in because sometimes people don't know how to do it. This is a newer refill, so it has the longer nib, but I take a pair of tweezers, I take out the chisel tip after I take off both caps, and then I drop in a couple. I check the tip down at the bottom to see when it's starting to get saturated, and then I know that I have filled the marker enough. Some people also weigh them. That is too complicated for this girl right here. So anyway, going back and forth and kind of adding those streaks, and then once I did the mid-tone, and then I'm doing the lightest color here, which is going to be the one that's going to be closest to the pond, it adds interest. So it's not just like a flat wash of color to the background with us really having to do anything else. For the actual sky portion, I am just using some Salty Ocean and a blending brush. I do find to get the softer kind of blue sky into clouds feel, I do have better luck with a brush. So I just added a little bit of blue sky, and then now I'm going to adhere down the tree and the grass layer, so that I can start building up towards the front, where in this card in particular kind of has like the most of the scene is down at the front. And then these, you can see I'm doing a portrait style card, but the scenes are long enough for a landscape card. And then I don't love white outlines. This is not news if you've been to my channel before. And I know what the colors are. Like, I didn't do a lot of color mixing. So before I even put this down, I can already go in with that lighter green, that G07, and color the outline. Now for the water, which I apologize that we're zoomed out here. For some reason, I must have just been in the zone. I love making scene cards, so I was probably just like in the zone. And not really thinking about it. So I chose my blues. I took my medium blue and, went around those outside edges. And then I'm just going to do a couple of little streaks. And then from the B04, I will go out to the B02. And this is kind of one of those where, again, like creating those little bit of streaks helps to give the idea of movement in the water. So then I think I did a B01, maybe a B00. And you can see like down at the bottom is where we've cut the trees from, but none of that's going to show. It's all going to hang off, and we're going to trim off all the extra. So there is my water. Once I'm happy with that, I can go ahead and glue it down, and then we can trim off all of the excess. In this particular one, like, you don't get to see much of the cattails, but I'm not overly worried about it because I really need the pond area for this particular card with the frog and the ducks. So the water area is what I'm more interested in. I find it easiest to trim off the edges with a larger set of shears. These ones are from scrapbook.com, but I also have the Spellbinders ones. I like them both. I think that they work very well for this type of like side trimming. And this is side trimming is very interesting because it's almost like removing a mask because like all of a sudden your scene comes together. So here I've laid everybody out. At this point, I still have not committed to a sentiment. That's what you see me doing here, trying to figure out what exactly I'm going to put on there. And then I need to color in the edges of my little ducks here, whether they are, and the grass, which for this one, like I did the darker color more toward the top and then the lighter green more toward the bottom, just because that's how I colored them. And then I'll do blue for the other ducks and the lily pads. If you chose not to buy the dies and you just fussy cut these out, you wouldn't even have to do that. Like for my little frog, he doesn't have any white edges because we fussy cut him. So he can just go directly into the scene. Normally, I'm a big proponent of masking, but in this case, I did want to use the dies for the background. So fussy cutting was the better option for my little frog. So now I'm going to glue these down. These are the ones who are exiting from their swim lessons. Would you like to say hi now? Would you like to say hi? Yeah? Okay. Come on.
Mommy, can I play a puzzle game?
You can play a puzzle game. That's fine. All right, here. You want to say hello to everybody? Say hi.
Hi.
What's on that card? Can you tell me the animals that are on that card?
Duck, duck, duck.
And?
A frog and then more ducks.
Yeah. Are they cute? Yeah. Do you like this card?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. Do you want to go back and play your puzzle game?
I don't have a puzzle.
Are you so funny?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're funny too.
They didn't even say hi back.
Well, they can't say hi back because they're not listening, but I bet you in the comments they will say hi back, and Mommy then will read you the comments. Okay? Later on when it goes up. Does that sound good? All right. I love you.
I'm going to go get my puzzle game.
Yeah, go get your puzzle game. Good job. Okay. So now we have put our little shadows underneath our little duck's feet, and we've done a little bit of a reflection. This isn't anything that you have to like be super stressed about. Just do like a couple of little wispy back and forth streaks of color. There's a couple of different ways that we can break this up, and we are going to do that. One of them is with the colorless blender, which you've already seen me do. Well, my sweet little jelly bean was talking. So you can go in with the colorless blender and kind of break that up a little bit to lighten some of the areas. And then we are also going to go in later on with the white gel pen to break up that water. I am adding my little shimmers. Now you may notice that the white duck that's in the water, obviously, you know, I don't have the same kind of reflection as I do for the other things, but I am going to create it with a combination of the white gel pen and the colorless blender. So we're going to add some white highlights to the little frog, definitely to his eyes to make them nice and white. And then also to the water, we're going to do some little streaks for the highlights on the lily pads. I just did little white dots, and then I just added a couple little streaks into the water in the background, so that it's not just like flat and doesn't look like it has any movement. So now once we have that done, I finally committed to a sentiment, and it says a little ray of sunshine, which I thought was really cute. Like it's a nice like sunny fall day. But then I remembered that on the little frog set they have these little flies, and I wanted to put those down. So I am going to, there's two different flies. I'm actually going to stamp 3 of them in black. Because I'm stamping in black, I'm not worried about like any kind of masking or whatever. And then I added some shimmer to them, and then I did their wings with some white gel pen. Speaking of white, that is also what I chose to do my sentiment in. I could have stamped this, not directly on the scene card. I can't tell you before, like any stamp positioners, before the Misty and things like that, how many cards I ruined with trying to stamp my sentiment at the end of a scene. But this, because I do have the Misty now, I'm more comfortable with it. So I'm just going to stamp this right into the grass. After I treated with my anti-static tool, I was very comfortable with filling in that little gap right there with the sentiment. It seemed to be the perfect place for it to go. And then I felt like my water needed a little bit more dimension. I used this blue, this B06 underneath all of the images, the frog, the lily pads, the ducks, to help give them some dimension and some lift. I just added it into the corners here, kind of like along those back edges. And then I added some rhinestones to accent my sentiment. And then that's it. That's the whole card. So don't forget about that restock or the overstock and the retirement sale. It's a really good one. And then also check out their new holiday release while you're over there. It's really cute. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye. Just kidding. Somebody else wanted to say bye. Go ahead. Say it.
Bye.
Tell them have a good day.
Have a good day.
Good job. You're excellent. You're an excellent co-host. All right. Have a nice day, guys. Bye.